The Economic and Organized Crimes Office on Wednesday argued in court the freeze order on the bank account of the former Cocoa Board boss, Dr. Stephen Opuni, would have to be maintained until the determination of the case of causing financial loss to the state brought against him. The case before an Accra High Court involves 217 million cedis allegedly lost to the state during Dr. Opuni's 3-year tenure as Cocoa Board CEO. His bank accounts were subsequently frozen, and he's been fighting through his lawyers to have the order overturned. Lawyer for EOCO, Jacqueline Avotri, told the court the institution is only being proactive to ensure the proceeds of crime are not dissipated before the trial of Dr. Opuni ends. There is more in the following report.
In an address that lasted well over 2 hours, lawyers for the investigative body marshaled their case before Justice Georgina Mensah Dacha. They argued why the bank accounts of the former Cocoa Board boss would have to remain frozen till the court hearing the causing financial loss case against him delivers its judgment. Counsel for Yoko, Jacqueline Avotri, on Wednesday told the court they have a duty to identify proceeds of crime so that the state would know which assets to confiscate in the event of a successful conviction. She defended the decision by Yoko not to oppose the earlier request for access to the account, explaining the investigative body had no legal basis to kick against the request, especially when the freeze order secured in February 2017 had elapsed. She further told the court the amount of money in Dr. Opuni's 2 accounts is less than the total amount, $215 million, involved in the charges he is standing trial for. The Yoko lawyer also brought up the labeling of the institution as a monster by Dr. Opuni's lawyer and prayed the court to deal with him. The judge, Justice Georgina Mensah Dacha, announced Monday, May 21, as the date to deliver her ruling on the matter.
After almost 3 hours of questioning, the Appointments Committee of Parliament has recommended the approval of Cynthia Nakoshi Lamte as Deputy Special Prosecutor. Joy News is learning the decision was taken at the committee's meeting held after her vetting Wednesday, where she warned she will not hesitate to resign her position if she is sidelined by her soon-to-be boss. Martin Amidu, Elting Brobis report.
When Ms. Lamte appeared before members of Parliament's Appointment Committee on Wednesday, she made it clear her attitude towards work and incorruptible nature make her suitable for the job, and for almost 3 hours demonstrated her competence and suitability for the job. The 59-year-old former chief state attorney, when approved by Parliament, will assist Martin Amidu in prosecuting corrupt public officials and politically exposed private individuals. She wants the cooperation of the public in her work, but says any attempt to make her irrelevant will not be countenanced.
I would resign because I wasn't put there just for cosmetic sake. I was put there to work. So if you sideline me, I may even go to whoever it is to at least inform him that I have realized that I'm not working. Maybe it's an oversight on the part of the person. Then the person will come back to his senses. But if it is true, then I would resign because I cannot be a puppet over there.
The perceived hot temper of a special prosecutor, Martin Amidu, was a subject that generated interest during the vetting, and Madame Cynthia was asked how she would handle it.
I've worked with Mr. Martin for some time now, and I know his temperament. So I must tune my mind that this is how the person is. If you do that, you can work with the person. If you do that, you study the person is temperamental, so you also have to calm down so that the two of you can work.
She also outlined some achievements in her 30-year practice as a state attorney responsible for criminal prosecutions.
When you handle a case and you win, it's one of your achievements. I remember where I had to prosecute 2 judges and a registrar. I ended up convicting one of the judges. One was acquitted and discharged, and the registrar was also convicted. At least it tells you that the law is no respecter of persons. And to me, that is it. Because for once, I wasn't going after the ordinary person in the streets, but the person who was himself administering justice. That is one of my achievements.
Chairman of the Appointments Committee tells Joy News the members did not have a problem approving her nomination for the consideration of Parliament.
We decided that we will unanimously recommend her to the House to approve her.
You were so satisfied with her performance?
We are satisfied with her performance.
Some say that she wasn't detailed enough in responding to some of the issues.
Because we don't want any detailed answers here. We just want to see that she's qualified, she understands the work, prosecution. That's all she has done in her life, except that she does not appear to be interested in other things other than prosecution.
Joy News is learning the report may be put before the House on Friday. Elton John Bobes reports for Joy News.
In a very tough story, 8 police officers are said to have been injured in a clash between military and police personnel in the northern region capital Tamale over the arrest of a soldier for allegedly assaulting the wife. Joy News is learning the military officer was being questioned at the Domestic Violence and Victim Support Unit DOVSU when he broke free. His escape is said to have triggered the unleashing of his colleagues in 2 military vehicles on the town, who reportedly attacked any police officer they encountered. Northern Region correspondent Martina Bugri joins me on phone with details. Hello. What more can you tell us about the clash, Martina?
What I gather is that they had returned from court this afternoon, and he was being sent to Cleveland, and then he's killed over the counter and then escaped. Then, few minutes later, they got wind that the military had entered into town and they were attacking any police officer they saw. I get out at the Lamashegu Bonzali Rural Bank, they attacked the police officer. Then at the Lamashegu police station, they came there again, attacked the police officers there, and then the commercial bank and some other places where police officers were before they came to the police headquarters, where they started shooting indiscriminately.
All right, Martina, we understand the police officers also armed themselves to face off with the military men. How did that end?
After they had a meeting when the top police command and the military command had a meeting and came down, we saw the 2IC called them to come back, and then within some few minutes, that had been resolved. They had stopped the show off they were putting up, because earlier on, each police officer you saw was probably with some form of weapon. They were asking that they be allowed to also move into town and then exchange between them and the military.
All right, so you're saying that as we speak now, the military officers have returned to base?
They actually came in, and then there was this sudden distance, and then they disappeared. After a while, they disappeared back into their barracks.
We learned also that police officers stationed in the town at banks and other facilities abandoned their posts as a result. Do we know if they're back?
When I was coming home this evening, I saw some at their base, and so it means that they have returned back to their place of work. But initially in the afternoon, they all absconded and went back to the headquarters.
All right. Thank you very much, Martina Bugiri, bringing us that update there from the Northern Regional Capital. Now, Northern Region Minister Salifu Said has condemned the attack, and we'll be hearing from him in a bit. But I'm joined on the line now by ACP Patrick Edu. Apparently we do not have him now, but let's listen to the Northern Region Minister Salifu Said.
It has been one of the very sad days for me as chairman of Northern Regional Security Council, given the fact that we are just starting the Ramadan month, and Regional Security Council, we call the imams in Northern Region, particularly in Tamale, from all the various sects. We're just there to discuss how they will do their preachings on the various FM stations that will promote peace in Northern Region and Tamale in particular. When we had this very fruitful meeting, we just finished the meeting and I started getting calls that there were these clashes between military and police. And immediately I cross-checked, and that was what was happening in town. So there was indiscriminate shooting of warning shots everywhere between the two security institutions. So I had to just move straight to the scene with the security RESEC members. We had to go to the police headquarters, go to the military, and we intervened. I gave them orders to instruct their men and women to put down their arms and then stop that. But actually, the security leadership in the region, especially the police and the military, I condemn them in no uncertain terms because they fail in their leadership, given the fact that they should have been able to track and see the weight of the situation and respond appropriately. So we were able to give them orders, and they instruct their men, the military like this, they call their people to retire to the two barracks, that is the Kamina barracks and that of the Bawa barracks, and then the police to call their men to order. But actually, it was a nasty scene, that one, I must confess.
I'm joined on the line now by ACP Patrick Edusapon of the Northern Region Police Command. Good evening to you, sir, and thanks for making time to join us. Now, what can you tell us about this clash between your men and the military officers?
It's a good evening. Let me begin by saying that it was an unfortunate incident. It was an incident no police officer and no military officer would like to have, and nobody expected that such a thing, very nasty thing, will happen. What actually happened was about 11 o'clock in the morning. There's already a case involving a man who had assaulted his taxi driver. And the case had been reported to the police about 2 or 3 weeks ago. The letter was written to the military authorities, and he was brought by a senior officer. So when the statement was taken about that 3 weeks ago, he was used to the senior officer to be taken, and any time it's needed, you have to bring him. So he was granted bail to him, and I think he has reported about 3 times. So today will be the 4th time. But after today, he came alone as a senior officer who bailed him and brought him the other time. Was quite busy in the office, so he couldn't come. So he came alone, and the program was that they were going to have a meeting or discussion between him and the driver that he beat. But at the end of the day, the deputy commander decided that, yes, once evidence has been found against him for an assault, he must be charged. And after the charge, he was asked to find somebody to bail him. So that was when, while the investigator was busy harassing, the soldier man left the office. So when the policeman, the investigator, realized that he had left, he went back to the officer who said that no, they must go and look for him. So he and another policeman traced him up, caught up with him in town. Then they tried to arrest him. But it was closer to the Bank of Ghana premises, not too far away from the place. So information got to the military men who were on guard at the Bank of Ghana premises that one of their colleagues is being manhandled by the police. And because of the previous incident between the military and the police, they also took it like they were their man had been attacked by the police. They went in, rescuing him, and then they freed him. So everybody thought at that time that was going to be the end of the matter, until when they called for reinforcement from the military, and they came in. They're the second group that came in. Then they went to town, assaulted any policeman that they saw in town. So that wasn't the situation. Not satisfied with that action, they came to the original headquarters, and just in front of the RGF office, they started firing. They fired some volleys of shots, which was made the RGF personnel to return fire. So that was when we got involved, because that was when we had been informed of what was happening around us. And that was also the time when the regional minister and the whole of RESEC were at headquarters. So before the regional minister, the whole of RESEC, the military, the first shots at the RDF have gone. So the place was very calm. But when the regional minister, the whole of RESEC came back, they came back. They started firing again. The police were forced also to open fire in the presence of the regional minister. So there were attempts of fire. Then, for about 15 minutes or so, the regional minister, together with VESEC and the military command, we asked them that they should ask the military men to move back to Bala, whilst we also restrain our men. So when that was done and the military moved to Bala, that ended the hostilities, and that was about 1 o'clock.
All right. You were indicating that there was exchange of fire. Does it mean that the police officers fired back?
Yeah, that's the truth. They fired back at the regional headquarters.
That would have endangered, people, the general members of the general public.
And ourselves, because it wasn't a healthy situation. It wasn't a healthy situation. The military fire and the police fire back.
Who ordered them to fire?
Yes, it wasn't a healthy situation. So it's not only members of the public who could have been endangered, or we ourselves were at risk.
I'm asking who asked the police to fire back?
Who asked the police
to fire back?
No, it was spontaneous. It was spontaneous. It was spontaneous.
This presents a pretty worrying situation, but please hold on for us. We have on the line Adam Bona. He's a security analyst, and we have been speaking with him on some of these issues. Thank you for making time, Mr. Adam Bona. Now, I'm just hearing the police officer tell us that in a spontaneous move, police officers were firing back, or there was exchange of gunfire between police officers and military personnel. Is that what's supposed to be?
Yes. Good evening, and good evening to your cherished viewers, Israel and the police commander in the northern region. This is very shameful. The police commander's own account. What it means is that for a period of about maybe an hour or 2 hours, there was total anarchy, state of anarchy in the whole of the northern region, because the Northern Regional Police Command headquarters is actually in Tamale. And so if this incident happened and the police retreated back to their offices and also started firing back, then it means that for over, 2 hours or something, there was actually no, the rule of law was actually not active, even though a state of emergency has not been declared. But I find it very worrying, the way and manner the military arrogate unto themselves, the powers to go around sometimes taking the laws into their own hands and either beating innocent civilians or attacking police officers who are supposed to be performing their lawful duty. And I have said it, Israel and your viewers, that it is a very lazy approach on our part as a nation to continue to engage the military in terms of homeland security. The military should only come in when a state of emergency has been declared. We don't need the military when it comes to fighting crime. But it is a lazy approach which we have adopted, bringing in the military. And because of the history of the military in this country and probably in Africa, sometimes they feel they are, not all of them, some of them feel they are above the law. They cannot be prosecuted. They cannot be arrested. If not, the law mandates the Ghana Police Service to make sure that we are all, we obey the law. If we fall foul, they present us to court for prosecution. I am not saying that. It is the law. And so, on what basis should a military officer be detained by the police? They have the right to detain everyone on the surface of Ghana if we break the law. So on what basis was he detained? He was in lawful police custody. And so for him to jump, jail and go and beg his colleagues to attack, military officers, in the metropolis, Tamale metropolis, I find that very worrying. But I would want to say that at the moment, we can only act calm and ask the police officers who have been attacked, who ask them, there is no need for them to attack the military back. All they need to do is to hope that proper investigations will be instituted so that these military officers who undertook this dastardly act, they will be brought and punished severely. But I want to repeat again.
Mr. Bona, has there been any...
the military in?
Mr. Bona, you're talking about, sanctions being meted out to the people who were found culpable. But has there been any history at all that such clashes, the military and police high command have actually dealt with such clashes in such a manner?
I not that I can remember, unless of course, officers are punished and we never get to know. But I mean, I don't know that I can remember in the last 22 years, 26 years of our fourth Republican War. I don't remember when military officers ganged up and attacked a police station or a police officer, and they were punished, and maybe they were either dismissed or demoted or maybe sent to jail.
Mr. Bona, I also want to find out, I'm trying to understand how the military officers, following the alarm raised by one of their men, would come out and seek to attack the police. Were they, on whose orders or on whose command were they acting?
But I tell you what, Israel and your viewers, supervision, I have said it repeatedly, supervision within the military hierarchy somehow is lacking. And if you realize Ebony Rains, who died, there was a military officer who was providing guard. Who authorized that military officer to providing guard? The facility, the Lebanese official who was shot in Tema when the 200,000 was taken. There were military officers in that facility. But all of these issues never come to the public domain. And so you see, we need to, the CDS, the current CDS probably might have inherited, a badly behaved military, that they need to bring them to book.
Right.
They need to make sure they are properly disciplined. Military officers are supposed to be one of the most highly disciplined institutions in the world. And therefore, to have them behave this way.
Yeah, Mr. Bona, I'd like you to hold on for me a minute. ACP Patrick Edu Sapong of the Northern Region Police Command is still on the line with us. Now, I want to find out how many police officers were injured in all?
Yeah, eight of them.
How severe are these injuries?
Sorry?
How severe are their injuries?
One was them, and he could not even stand. I think he was heavily assaulted. Yes. For him, I saw him.
Okay. What is being done, or what do you think can be done so that some of these clashes don't recur?
Yeah, thank you very much. Like we have done before, we have tried several times, and we are still trying that there should be more, more interactions between the military and the police. Like the other time, about 1.5 months ago, there's this exercise called Exercise Fast Food, which is done only by the military. But they work with the police to make sure that we get into contact, we get into close contact more often. And after we have done the exercise, it was a route march. It was very nice. And people said that was going to be the end of hostilities between the police and the military.
Except it didn't work.
Yes, but it didn't work. We've also earmarked joint debtors that in the future you're going to have so many of these debtors. And anytime there was any occasion for the chief, the police and the military to come into contact, whether the matter to be discussed is police affair or military affair, we were trying to work in the field so that as much as we get to know ourselves, it will be better for it. Because if you come to Tamale, for instance, there are a lot of men, policemen, who are married to the military, and that, I think, is a good sign that it can foster good relationship between the police and the military. So we are trying that any time we have any opportunity, any time we have any occasion, we bring in the military and the police so that we get to know ourselves more often.
All right. Okay, thank you very much, ACP Patrick Edu Sapong of the Northern Region Police Command. I still have on the line Mr. Adam Bona, security analyst. Mr. Bona, what do you think can be done to end these recurrent clashes?
Like I did say, I mean, the military, let's have a gradual approach, making sure we recruit more police officers, give them what is expected of them, give them more training so they are able to deal with all aspects of homeland security within the country, and send the military back to the barracks so that if a military officer has to come out of the barracks, the police officer can stop you and ask you of your in those days, we used to call it XDRs. I mean, military officers can't leave their base without permission. It's everywhere in the world. But over here, you see them riding motorbikes and, doing things that are not expected. But I would urge that the top echelon of the Ghana Police Service, the military, Minister of Interior, Minister of Defense, they should come together and quickly resolve this issue in the north before, it escalates to something else that probably we wouldn't. We want to go to bed, getting up tomorrow morning, hoping that this issue would have been resolved. And then there is an issue of criminality. Let's not sweep it under the carpet. Those who undertook this operation should be, arrested and properly punished. I think it should be done.
All right. Thank you very much, security analyst Adam Bona, for sharing those insights with us. You're watching Joy News Prime here on Joy News on Multi TV. We're taking a break. We'll bring you business news next.
Hello again, good evening to you. It's now time for business. Very soon, payment for various services provided by government agencies will be done electronically without any human interference. Vice President Dr. Mahamudu Bawumia says the rollout of the National Mobile Money Interoperability Project is expected to provide the infrastructure for such initiatives. He was speaking in a keynote address at the launch of a private clearance platform, PaySwitch, in Accra.
The launch of a mobile money interoperability project provides a platform to boost the government's agenda on transforming the economy electronically. Vice President Dr. Mahamudu Bawumia says moving all government payments onto the electronic platform will ensure that the fight against corruption is won. He said the success of the recently launched mobile interoperability system will give way for all other initiatives.
Very soon, government will have to stop accepting cash payments anyway. That's where government will have to make sure we say, now you can make only electronic payments. If we go that way, I think, and it is not going to be too long to come once we are assured of the stability of the systems everywhere, this is where government has to go. And once we do that, one of the biggest enemies of corruption is technology. Technology really is a big enemy of corruption. If we can track all payments and collect all payments, it will make it more difficult for people to steal the money if it's all electronic. And once this infrastructure has been put in place, government has to take full advantage of it and be able to receive payments for all sorts of services electronically. It can easily be mandated.
The Vice President also hinted that with the ongoing transformation, any Ghanaian mobile phone user is automatically having access to a financial service.
In fact, with the developments that we are seeing in mobile money, in electronic payments in Ghana, and the infrastructure that has now been put in place, pretty much now anybody with a mobile phone essentially has a bank account. I mean, because you can do your mobile payments to a bank. If you have to pay for your taxes, you can pay using mobile payment. Now, if you have to pay, for import duty, you can use your mobile, your account, your mobile phone to pay. So we are getting to the point.
He also assured the National Identification Program will be rolled out in the course of this month.
Meanwhile, the Vice President is justifying $4.5 million spent on the rollout of the mobile money operability system is within budget of government. According to him, the aim of the current administration is to streamline all payment systems in the country without a burden to the citizenry. There are some reports that the previous administration had budgeted over $4 billion for the project.
Ghana is arguably the leading country right now in Africa in the area of mobile payments interoperability. As I said, we've overtaken Tanzania and Kenya and other countries in this direction. And thankfully, we did it within budget. I say so. I hope PaySwitch, you didn't spend 4.6 billion Ghana cedis on your development. I certainly hope you didn't. I mean, you've heard a lot of discussion this week about the cost of payment system, especially this interoperability switch. And it just, I mean, when I first became aware of this, it was a situation where 3 companies apparently bid for the right to provide payment system, right? The interoperability, payment system interoperability. One company bid 14 million Ghana cedis to provide that payment system interoperability. Another company, for the same scope of work, bid 5 million Ghana cedis. And yet a third company, for the same scope of work, bid 4.6 billion Ghana cedis. And guess who won? 4.6 billion Ghana cedis won that bid. And what are we trying to provide? Interoperability. And we have been able to do it for $4.5 million instead of the $1 billion. And we have become the leading country in interoperability in Ghana. So what other scope were you thinking about? I mean, what more do you want to do? If you've become the leading country as far as interoperability is concerned, what more scope are you going to provide?
The Energy Ministry is calling on prospective bidders for the country's new oil blocks to ensure value for money and complying with best international practices. This was made known during the inauguration of a committee to manage the opening of a competitive bidder for the new oil blocks. There's more in this report.
The Minister of Energy, Boakye Agyarko, has inaugurated a 19-member licensing round and negotiating committee aimed at overseeing the number of oil blocks that will be put on offer during an upcoming bidding process. According to the Minister, the bidding process for oil blocks is very necessary, especially when Ghana's last exploration well was drilled in 2014.
Exploration activity has slowed down since the dawn of the low-price era in 2014. This has been compounded by the boundary dispute between Ghana and La Côte d'Ivoire. In fact, the last time an exploration well was drilled in Ghana was in 2014. This state of affairs is not acceptable to a country like Ghana that is desirous of growing the oil and gas industry to provide opportunities for its people. It has therefore become necessary for government to create the environment for accelerating activity through our strategy of aggressive exploration.
Meanwhile, Boakye Agyarko has responded to concerns over the inclusion of local content in the bidding process. He tells Joy Business local tenders will be considered only if they meet the requirements in the bidding process.
Refers to the types of entities that will be participating in the bid. It's an open, competitive bid. If there are Ghanaian companies who want to bid to become license holders and operators, and they qualify, that's the operative word. Everybody must meet a qualification criteria in order to be considered.
On his part, Chairman of the committee and Chief Director, Ministry of Energy, Lawrence Apausi, entreated members of the committee to be highly professional in their discharge of their duties.
Members of the committee, my fellow colleagues, are urged to be very professional in the execution of your duties. As the swearing statement says, we have to treat this all with confidentiality. So I will ask the Honorable Minister also and the deputies that we know their doors are already open. We have been having an open, transparent discussion with the ministers. We want them to keep the doors continually open like this to all the committee members, even in the absence of the chairman.
The 19-member committee has been divided into 3 subcommittees.
And that's all by way of business tonight. Many thanks for watching. My name is Emmanuel Apoachi. Have a good evening.
The National Health Insurance Authority is pushing for prison sentences for persons who perpetrate fraud against the health insurance scheme. It believes imposing jail terms as one of the sanctions for such people should deter others from inflating claim figures. Charity Emehil-Bartels has more in this report.
Over the years, debt-owed health facilities through the National Health Insurance Scheme keeps rising, with implications for health delivery in some health facilities. Speaking to Joy News on the sidelines of the launch of the 60th anniversary celebrations of the Ghana Medical Association, Chief Executive of the National Health Insurance Authority, Dr. Samuel Yao-Ano, says it has become necessary for management of the authority to impose stricter punitive measures on people who attempt to rip off the NHIA.
The internal disciplinary action against people who try to defraud the scheme, both internally and from our service providers outside. Again, those rules and those actions that we take them are not mitigating enough. So people do it, and even when they are arrested, they pay and then they repeat it again. When people are convicted of crime against our health fund, they should be compulsory imprisonment. And we have indicated and suggested at least a minimum of 2-year imprisonment in addition to the fine that they pay should be enshrined in our constitution. Those proposals have been to health, is being discussed by our health ministry.
Health Minister Kweku Agyemang-Manu assured healthcare delivery facilities and suppliers of government's commitment to clear all outstanding 2016 and 2017 arrears of the NHIA by end of June.
We're putting things together. God willing, if you're able to complete this exercise very fruitfully, I believe we will probably get there. We will be able to clear all 2016 arrears, the last quarter that is left, and all the 2017 arrears, also about 3 or 4 months that is left. And then we'll come mainstream to this year. And this year, we're only overdue by just about a month or so, because they have 3 months arrears all the time sitting down that will clear.
Former president of the Ghana Medical Association and board chair of SNICT, Dr. Kwame Adokufo, proposed a 30% pay increase for medical practitioners who are posted to rural areas.
Medicine, you have to improve yourself all the time. If you are in Accra, you can go for a course at the postgraduate college. If you are put in a remote area far from Accra, where will you go for self-improvement? So there are a lot of factors. Till Ghana becomes a developed nation, it will take a long time to get the same facilities we have in Accra, outside Accra. So the best thing to do is to give solid incentive, 30% pay increase, so that people will feel, look, I'm going to be away for 3 years, but I know by the end of the 3 years I'll have I would have paid 30% of my mortgage loan, something like that.
Health practitioners are optimistic the 60-year celebration of the GMA would be used to assess its performance and devise strategic measures to address the doctor-to-patient gap and conditions of services. Charity Emehil-Bartels reporting for Joy News.
Joy News is learning all 36 students of the Otiwating Senior High School who suffered food poisoning have been discharged from hospital. The students were rushed to the Eastern Regional Hospital in Koforidua after eating waakye, a popular rice and beans meal. Correspondent Kofi Sian reports the Food and Drugs Authority is investigating the incident.
The affected students started complaining of severe stomach upset and showed signs of diarrhea. There are, however, conflicting reports of a source of the food that is suspected to have caused the poisoning. Some accounts suggest it came from the school's dining hall, but headmaster of the Otiwating Senior High School, John Hoxnata, says the students ate from a bush canteen.
In actual fact, 11 reported at the infirmary in the school. So we based on our distance on them, brought them to the hospital. But as soon as they all pointed at a particular food vendor, we asked the person to stop selling. All those who bought our food also ate waakye that day also came reporting, but we made sure that they were all screened and they were all asked to go home.
Okay, so what happened?
Oh yes, because of the 11 that had a problem, they discharged 6 and kept 5, claiming they were waiting for a report from the laboratory for them to confirm or not to confirm whatever the problem was.
Okay, so as a school, what are you going to do to ensure that next time or in recent future, such things wouldn't happen?
In actual fact, we have so many things in place. You know, the assembly assess them, the health facility to Ministry of Health also assess the food vendors before they give them license to sell to the public. And so, we all know sometimes it's coming from this cabbage and whatever, the chemicals that they use. I'm not the expert. We are still waiting for the expert advice. But from today, nobody can sell with cabbage again. And if we get further information that is coming from other sources too, we will block those sources.
The Food and Drugs Authority says it is investigating the incident. Kofi Sian's report for Joy News.
As government targets producing 1 million tons of cocoa next year, some farmers of the crop are dreading the impact that a new surge in cases of the black pod disease could have on next season's harvest. Farmers complain inadequate supply of herbicides by Cocoa Board could worsen the situation. My colleague Justice Beidou has been to the western regional town of JJ Nkwanta, where fresh cases of the disease has ravaged many farms, to meet some of the farmers worst affected.
These farmers have come together to help each other with work on their cocoa farms. Harvesting is one of the busiest times of the year, but this year it's not business as usual.
Many of the cocoa pods in this heap have been affected by the black pod disease, like what is in my hand now. If you break it into two, you realize that it's all black in here, and it means all of this goes to waste. Now, for every 10 at least that I count in this heap, if not less than 5 that have been affected by this disease. It goes to show what impact it has for the future of cocoa production, not just for communities like this, but for the entire country.
40-year-old Ebenezer Tete's farm is one of the worst affected in this area. The herbicides are very expensive. They give us herbicides to help control the disease, but it's not enough. And they rarely come. One farmer gets 4 bottles, no matter the size of your farm. So imagine you have 10 acres of cocoa. How can you control the disease? The black pod could be one of the most devastating diseases that could attack the cocoa fruit. It starts when the infected pods show some little yellow spots, which eventually turn brown and then light to black bruises within 5 days. It could cover the entire pod after 8 days of infection. It does not only show on the surface of the pod, but also attacks the beans.
We
used to get fertilizers and the herbicides for free. Many farmers were getting them, but now they are asking us to buy them. Even that, we were hoping the cocoa prices could be increased to support us, but it has not changed.
Ghana's
cocoa production has been on the decline since the historic 1 million ton harvest in 2010, taking a hard hit on government revenues. If the recent spread of the black pod disease is not checked, the harvest could be hit even further. Justice Beidou, Joy News, JJ Nkwanta.
Growing cocoa in the northern part of the country is almost impossible, as the weather pattern arguably will not allow it. But the harsh weather conditions in the Upper East region didn't discourage 62-year-old Apams Bill Azurago when he decided to go into cocoa farming. Correspondent Albert Sori visited the farm at Zebila in the Boku West District and reports, despite several challenges, the farmer has managed to keep his cocoa trees alive.
Conditions here in the Upper East region are hotter and drier compared to conditions in southern Ghana. This is because the region experiences shorter rainy seasons. The cocoa crop is said to be sensitive to lack of water, which means it cannot survive in areas that experience prolonged droughts. But here at Zebila in the Boku West District of the Upper East region, Apam Sabalik, Azurago's 2-acre cocoa farm, is thriving. It was not easy in the beginning. I had to spend the nights here on the farm to prevent animals from chewing the young cocoa trees because the place was not fenced, he says. The 62-year-old farmer once visited his son who lives in the Ashanti region and brought back with him 7 cocoa pods. Apam Sabalik's father in the past had tried to grow cocoa on the same field but failed because the trees eventually died. But Apam Sabalik was determined and succeeded where his father had failed. Starting with seeds from the 7 cocoa pods he brought with him from the Ashanti region 5 years ago, Apam Sabalik gradually expanded his farm. These dugouts here provide water for the farm during the dry season. So far, he has managed to harvest and sell only 1 bag of cocoa beans, but he is not discouraged. He tells Joy News if he has been able to achieve this much without any help, he is confident he could expand the farm. He believes more farmers will be encouraged to go into cocoa farming if government provides the necessary support. If the government can help me with fertilizers and water pumping machines and also help me get a wire fencing around the farm, I can achieve more than what you see. I believe cocoa can grow anywhere in Ghana. With the right feasibility studies and better farm practices, cocoa farming could become a commercial enterprise in the Upper East region. For Joy News, Albert Sori, reporting from Zebila.
Though education at the secondary level is free in Ghana, students of the Yabram Community Day School in the Karachi East municipality have to pay a high price to access it. Every day, the students have to walk at least 5 hours to and from school. Because of this and other daunting challenges, more than 90% of students posted to the school from outside the region refused admission last academic year. Manasseh Azuria, when he traveled to Dambai and reports the school is situated 9 kilometers from the town and there are no commuter vehicles there.
It is a Monday morning and the road between Dambai and Nkwanta Junction in the Karachi East municipality is littered with students of Yabram Community Senior High School. A few ride bicycles and an even fewer number use motorbikes. The majority of them have to cover the 9-kilometer journey to school on foot.
Our problem is that before you leave here to the school, mostly before you get there, you are tired.
So they should make effort and make our school body so that it will help us our academic studies.
For students like Charity Ngachim, it is even worse. From where she lives to the roadside is about 1 kilometer, and she has to walk about 20 minutes before reaching the main road to continue her journey. There are no commuter vehicles here, and some passers-by and farmers who ply this route often offer the students a ride on trucks, motorbikes and tricycles. Today, Charity is lucky a benevolent rider offers her a lift after she walked about 5 minutes. Charity has arrived safely, but that is not always the situation. 15-year-old Blaise Osabuti was recently involved in an accident when a motor rider offered her a ride.
Last week, Monday, I was coming to school and a guy picked me. So we reached here and he wanted to negotiate the curfew. As he did that, the motor wanted to fall and I tried to drop down and I had the van.
Dambai is where a majority of the students live. Because of the long distance, many of them often get to school late and are often too tired to concentrate on lessons, according to the headmaster of the school, Vincent Kosi Atiku.
The majority of the students foot from wherever they are to school every day. And this makes it difficult for them to come to school on time. Those who try to come, get to campus very late, they appear tired as well. So when they come, they are not able to do much. Some, because of the tiredness, decide on the days to be in school. Some days they will come, some other days they wouldn't come at all. When you ask them, they tell you they are tired.
When classes are over, the students are left with two options. They either have to walk back home or stand by the roadside, sometimes for hours, begging riders and other vehicle owners to help them. When it rains, their plight is worse. Charity is lucky again. She gets help from a colleague student who has a bicycle. And Bless, who cannot walk the 9-kilometer journey on foot because of her injury, has to get into the boot of a car. On Monday, the MP for Karachi East, Michael Jatto, presented a bus to the school, but he emphasized the bus is only a temporary measure.
Now, this school is meant to be a community day school. But I would like to ask, where is the community? What visibility study informed the siting of the school when students will have to walk nearly 9 kilometers to school daily? We need to rethink about this school. And for this, I suggest that the school should be converted into a boarding facility.
The headmaster believed the bus will be of immense help to both the students and teachers, but added the school would need at least 3 buses to be able to convey all the students. However, the biggest challenge still remains. Some as young as 13 years who are posted to the school have to rent rooms and live on their own, a situation that breeds indiscipline and sexual promiscuity, according to the headmaster. Charity says where she lives makes studying at home very difficult. Apart from being tired after walking such a long distance, there is no light at home. Yabram Community Day School has a capacity to admit 1,500 students, but it currently has only 501 students because some of them reject postings. In the last academic year, for instance, more than 90% of the students posted to this school from outside the region refused the admission because it lacks accommodation.
In the 2017-2018 admissions placement, 510 students were placed from 7 regions, excluding the Volta region. And because of the distance and the fact that the school doesn't have a boarding facility, many of such students didn't come. There were only 54 who reported. Out of the only 54 who reported, out of the 510, 40, sorry, I said 54, 54 out of the 510 that reported. 9 reported and have since never returned.
The MP for the area, Michael Jatto, believes the best way to solve the problem here is to provide accommodation for the students. The John Mahama administration built the community day schools to increase access to secondary education. The Akufo-Addo government, on the other hand, has introduced the free SHS policy to improve affordability. But from evidence at the Yabram Community Day School, both interventions appear to have failed to achieve their aims. Secondary education here is neither affordable nor accessible, and some parents would rather look elsewhere than risk sending their teenage children to unknown communities to rent rooms and walk about 5 hours a day to access secondary education. For Joy News, Manasseh Azore Irene reporting from Yabram.
Private legal practitioner and board member of the Federation of Persons Living with Disability, Abdul Aziz, has lashed out at the Deputy Aviation Minister for justifying the refusal by Africa World Airlines to board a person with disability. He says the ministry cannot look on for airlines to discriminate against persons with disability instead of enforcing a 2016 moratorium, which makes it mandatory for all airlines to procure and use larger aircraft to accommodate such persons. His comments are in reaction to remarks by the Deputy Aviation Minister Kwabena Darko-Mensah that Africa World Airlines did no wrong when it denied Rita Kriva access to a Kumasi flight.
There's from the information we've gathered, apart from the communication bit that was not communicated to the lady, there's always the possibility of this happening, especially when we are using smaller aircraft. And therefore, in our own airline, there are procedures that are supposed to be taken. For instance, if the airlines are smaller and the door is small, usually people who are disabled are not usually encouraged to get in because in case of emergency, it will be difficult to bring the person down. But in bigger aircraft, and they usually have this lifts that can easily lift them, put them in and bring them out. For the Africa World equipment, which is E145, it carries only about 45 people, and the door is very small. Even the emergency doors are even windows. So naturally, for safety, it is always appropriate that if they felt that the person cannot be put on board, the person should understand us. Unfortunately, the communication was not done properly, and I believe that is where the difficulty came. But apart from that, for safety reasons, the decision that was taken, we believe that was the right one, and we are just saying sorry that maybe the communication was not done properly, but that's where the problem is coming from.
So any reprieve for this particular lady? We understand she is proceeding to court because then she says she didn't have any idea.
That's what I'm saying, that it's communication.
Okay.
It's not about she being denied boarding, it's about the communication. Because if they put her on board and there was an emergency, all the other 50 passengers on that plane would have been in jeopardy. Okay. And as far as you can identify a hazard, you mitigate it. And one way of mitigating it was to make sure that she didn't get on board.
Abdul Aziz describes as appalling the ministry's failure to enforce fresh technical guidelines agreed on in 2015.
About 4 years ago, we reached an agreement with the civil aviation authorities that we would cooperate with them to revise the rules on the carriage of persons with disability. And they made new technical directives. We were one of the stakeholders that came out with the rules. The local airlines then argued that they did not have the right aircraft. They had very small and overage aircraft because it was too expensive to buy new and relatively larger aircraft in Ghana because of the existing conventions. We cooperated with them, and then the guidelines were passed. Based on that, an existing suit against all the local airlines, that was Amtrak, Starbo, African World, and the Ghana Civil Aviation Authority, was discontinued from court in order to give them a chance to implement the technical directives. Among the provisions, one of the important provisions in the technical directives was to give the local airline 1 year moratorium within to acquire relatively bigger aircraft that could accommodate persons with disability. Then again, we agreed that was outside the provisions that the civil aviation would assist or facilitate the passage or the ratification of the Cape Town Convention by Ghana government. Now, Parliament in 2016 ratified that convention. The 1 year moratorium has long elapsed. Now, long after this moratorium had elapsed, the Africa World Airlines still uses that overage and it's very, very small aircraft to operate because that's how they can make more profits anyway. So they continue to deprive persons with disability the right to use local airlines. It's very unfortunate. And the minister, if he's, I don't, maybe he's not aware of all this. That's why he was saying that. If he's aware of this, that is what he should answer. He should answer why the local airlines are still using those very small and overage aircraft that cannot carry persons with disability. And not to come and justify their embarrassing, which is very embarrassing to the whole of Ghana, not only the government, the people of Ghana, embarrassing and unjustifiable position of the local airline company that their aircraft is too small so they cannot carry persons with disability. Why is that small aircraft still there? Because the moratorium has long passed.
Meanwhile, the Federation says it will fully support legal action brought against Africa World Airlines by Rita Kriva over the incident. The Ghana Civil Aviation Authority on its part says it is awaiting a detailed report from Africa World Airlines on the incident so it could take appropriate action. Simon Alote is Director General.
Primarily, if an airline should deny boarding to a disabled person, it's primarily for that person's safety, not based on discrimination. Nobody discriminates. The industry, is open for all Ghanaians. We will not accept any level of discrimination. However, safety is key, and if in the airline's opinion, because of the peculiar nature type of aircraft they are using, the safety of that person could be endangered in case of an emergency, then the appropriate action will be done. Having said this, we are coming up with a lot of educational programs to the general public on our directives on carrying persons with reduced mobility, so that the public will know what the current regulations are, and this issue will be clearly understood by all. We've asked AWAT for an official report. Once it comes, we will study and be able to advise appropriately.
Chief Justice Sophia Akuffo has threatened to close the Kukuo Magistrate Court in the Esunafo South District of the Brong-Ahafo region if the District Assembly does not provide an appropriate building to house the court within the next 6 months. Court sessions are currently conducted in a rented building without a holding cell, appropriate benches for the public, a washroom, and the other amenities befitting of a court. Chief Justice Sophia Akuffo, who was appalled with the situation, issued a strong warning to the District Assembly to urgently provide a better facility or risk closure of the court. A report by correspondent Nestor Kafuyajoa.
The Chief Justice Sophia Akuffo was inspecting the Kukuo Magistrate Court as part of her tour of the Brong-Ahafo region. Not pleased with the structure judges and judicial staff were operating from, Justice Akuffo made it clear her administration will not tolerate such poor conditions. She told the Esunafo South District Assembly to ensure that the Magistrate Court operates in a comfortable environment.
And these are even rented premises from what I hear. So the sooner we get out of here, the better. So please, I'm giving 6 months to the not to start, to finish. To finish? Yes. Because if 6 months from now is when? November. By November, we cannot continue to be here. I'll close this place if we don't have anywhere to move to. On November. So, have you taken note? Because it's very depressing, and it is not right. It's also not right for the community that this is the court that we are providing.
At Dwayao Nkwanta, the Tano North District capital, the Chief Justice commended the Traditional Council for providing a building for the Magistrate Court to operate in. She encouraged other traditional leaders to take keen interest in the infrastructure.
We'll bring you sports news next. And in the headlines, you're enjoying News Prime. Police and military personnel clash in the northern regional capital, Tamale, after a military officer was arrested by the police. Appointments Committee recommends approval of 59-year-old former Chief State Attorney Cynthia Lamte as Deputy Special Prosecutor after appearing before them in an almost 3-hour vetting session, which she threatened to resign if she felt frustrated on the job. Economic and Organized Crimes Office argues the court order to freeze the bank account of former COCOBOD CEO Dr. Stephen Gupuni is to ensure proceeds of crime are not dissipated before the determination of the case brought against him. In business, Vice President declares rollout of National Mobile Money Interoperability Project expected to provide adequate infrastructure for cashless transactions. The National Health Insurance Authority pushes for jail terms for persons who attempt to rip off the scheme in the submission of their claims.